Welcome to the Commander's Journey, a journey for new Commander players ready to uncover their hidden magic potential.
Welcome back. I'm Joel.
And I'm Alex.
And here at the Commander's Journey, we have another deck tech for you. And this one comes in just at or under $100.
Just a hair under. And there was a version of this where we were at $100 on the dot, and we were trying to finesse it to be under 100 like we want to claim.
And I don't know if you were surfing around your YouTube today, Alex, but I did notice that there's a new I'm having a total brain fart. The Command Zone did a whole new gameplay, and they are using this commander. So
they are?
Yep. So we didn't build anything that Josh or Jimmy built. This is something you built like 2 weeks ago. We've been playing with it. And we have a snow deck now.
I have not, as of the time of this recording, seen this at all. And I was the main one who built this deck, and I've been testing it for a little while. So I'm sure there's overlap. If they have snow anything, there's overlap. But there's not that many snow cards.
Yeah, exactly. After this, I'm going to go watch it, though, because it's got it's got Hawk from Cobra Kai on it.
There you go.
Magic. Anyways, so you probably already guessed. I should have had the commander up. Let me put him in here. So Jorn, God of Winter. Look at that. This is live production at its best. This is our commander. And so whenever Jorn attacks, untap each snow permanent you control. It's a 3/3 for 200 grand. I mean, right there. I'm done.
Yeah, that's like 90%. Actually, it's more like 70, 80% of the card, because this deck can take advantage of the back half. But honestly, Jorn is fantastic just with that front half if you never use the back half. And I don't mind him in the 99 at all, just based on that front half clause.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're on Sultai colors, I mean, you play this because you just got another Seedborn Muse, basically. And then the second side's really good, too, in case you need it. Probably won't use it that much. It's Caldring the Rhyme Staff for 1 blue and a black for a Legendary Snow artifact. You tap it, and you can play target snow permanent card from your graveyard this turn. If you do, it enters the battlefield tapped. But you're not going to use that very much.
You definitely, generally what happens is you use Jorn in the early game, Jorn kind of in the mid game. There's a late game point where you probably might end up using it, especially with a few cards, especially the one we're going to first talk about. And then going back, you'll end up with, back to Jorn again at the very end is kind of what this deck wants to do. There'll be points where the back half is relevant, unlike most decks.
So this back end, I mean, you play it sometimes, right, Alex? So you may play target snow permanent card from your graveyard this turn. If you do, it enters battlefield tap, so it's somewhat valuable.
Exactly. It's not the main side you're going to be using, but this is the deck where you can actually take advantage of this. And George's one of those cards, and I think we said this when he was in our top 10 video, that he's going to get better the more snow cards that get printed are. Right now, there's about 1 or 2 sets less worth of making this deck really, really powerful. If we get 1 or 2 more sets of good cards, then we can really start skyrocketing. And with the back end too, especially, I mean, you're grabbing lands out of it is mostly what you're grabbing, some important creatures. But you can use it, to further the game plan just in the second half of the game.
Awesome. So that really is your game plan then, right? And then how do you want to win with this?
So mainly you're going to win with this deck by swinging in with doing attacks and winning with combat damage. That's how the majority of the games went. I did win 1 game with commander damage, so not entirely irrelevant to what the deck wants to do.
3/3?
With a 3/3, I buffed it a hair through other methods, but it was it just kept on swinging in. It was the only thing that could, and that's a lot of what this deck is. So mainly what you do is you use Jorn in the early game to really ramp better than your opponents do, really get it going, get those attacks in. You'll win using combat damage probably most of the time. Often it's not with Jorn, though. Jorn is of course an extra 3 damage here or there. Doesn't hurt.
Yeah, the ramp side, I mean, you get far ahead. You get far ahead of your opponents. But like we were playing one-on-one, but then I was like, Alex, I know once you start playing multiplayer, people are going to do threat assessment and be like, let's get that guy off the battlefield.
Yeah, and it does have a lot of ways to protect him in the deck, a number of
Mhm.
them, but it's one of those things. Jorn definitely needs to stay out, and whether that you want to take a turn to cleanly do that, it might be worth it. The more you play with this deck, the more Jorn will be aimed at, because they'll realize how powerful it is. But honestly, it functions without Jorn just fine. Just the power level difference is significant when you have Jorn out versus when you don't.
Nice. So let's get into the game plan cards then. Let's get right into it. We like to, with these decks, we like to break it down to synergies. So we got the synergistic game plan. Let's start with that. And you have a card here called Sunstone. It's 3 generic for an artifact. You pay 2 generic, and you can sacrifice a snow-covered land to have all creatures deal no damage in combat this turn.
Yeah, so you can use this on your opponent's turn if you're about to get swung in for something huge and actually use it to protect yourself. That's probably the main reasons why the deck, and you can use the other side of Jorn to get that land back. So later in the game, you can kind of use this to not even be overpowered, but enough that 2 different opponents kind of have to attack you to really do damage, not just one. But the other thing I really like about it is you can use this card, though I wouldn't recommend doing it, but if you did need it, you can use this card to attack with Jorn and use its ability. That way, Jorn doesn't die. He gets the attack off, so he gets the untap triggers and, lives to fight another day.
That's really good. Yeah, I like the protection side of it too. Just cards that have a secondary kind of use can always be valuable in decks like this.
Exactly.
The next card is Icebreaker Kraken. It's 10 blue and blue for a snow creature Kraken. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each snow land you control. When Icebreaker Kraken enters the battlefield, artifacts and creatures target opponents control don't untap during that player's next untap step. And return 3 snow lands you control to their owner's hand. Return Icebreaker Kraken to its owner's hand. It's an 8/8. Oh, I need a drink of water after that one.
I'll give you the pause here, Joel. Icebreaker Kraken, I want an example in the game plan of just a big, dumb snow creature. And the Kraken's a great example. It's new, it's flashy, it keeps things tapped down, and that way you can get an extra swing in potentially or often. It's one of those cards. It's a big 8/8 that you will be able to get out pretty early using Jorn. And, it'll untap too, so it has pseudo vigilance when you swing with it, as long as you swing alongside Jorn. It's example. This is the one that, puts the clock on the game and really helps lower the life total significantly.
It's really nice, especially like you said in this deck. Jorn is going to get this Kraken up quicker than most decks will.
Yeah.
And then we also, as part of the plan, just another good synergy card is Rime Feather Owl. It's a snow creature, bird with flying, and Rime Feather Owl's power and toughness are each equal to the number of snow permanents in play. And then you can pay 1 in a snow. That little symbol is for snowland. 1 in a snowland to put an ice counter on target permanent. And permanents with ice counters on them are snow.
Yeah, so not only does Rime Feather's Owl power and toughness gets huge when it comes into play. It's equal to the number of snow permanents out. So one of the games I got at Rime Feather Owl, it came in as I want to say an 11/11, and then went out and turned my Swiftfoot Boots and my Soul Ring into ice permanents on the next turn. And you have a giant 11/11 flyer that is turning all your few other non-snow things into snow, which makes it bigger. This is everything the deck wants to do, and is a perfect card to help shore up the fact that there's not quite enough snow permanents in existence that are good to quite get everywhere you want to get with snow alone. It'll happen eventually, I think, but it's going to be a number of sets, of course, until we get there. But this card can help make the difference.
For sure. And there's a ton of snow in this deck, but yeah, this bad boy. Okay, 11/11. There's your 11/11 snow creature right there. So the next section we're talking about best synergistic ramp. So these are some cards that fit perfectly in this deck, synergistic wise for ramp. And the first one I have is Into the North. As soon as I heard the name, I was thinking of Game of Thrones, honestly. It's 1 in a green for a sorcery. You search your library for a snowland card and put it into play tapped. Then shuffle your library.
Yeah, so this is just a clean, rampant growth. effect. You can play it on turn 2. What's nice is you can grab any snow land, which you can grab some nice, useful stuff. There was a point, I guess I'll spoil it. There was a point in this deck where it had Dark Depths in it, and that's a fun one to go grab with this card.
Yeah.
But just to make it the under 100, if we just took that one card out, we were there. So that's an upgrade for you. But this is a great one to get. Exactly.
No, but even the dual land, they have dual snow lands now.
Yes, and that will come into play, tapped anyway, so that's a perfect choice if you need just the color fixing. I personally like grabbing something like Scrying Sheets, I think is a great choice, or if you want a bolt effect, you could do Mouth of Ronan. There were also snow lands that you can grab with this. So this card does offer still a lot of flexibility.
There you go. Another great synergistic ramp card is Spirit of the Elderguard. For 3 and a green, it's a snow creature, Bear Spirit. When Spirit of the Elderguard enters the battlefield, search your library for a snow land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. The Spirit of the Elderguard gets +1/+0 for each other snow permanent you control. It's a 0/4.
So this one's just barely in that ramp current category in that you put it in your hand, but same thing. You don't need to grab a basic land. You grab any snow land. You just put it into your hand to play next turn. And what I really like about it could be a huge creature. And in this deck, it'll be a huge creature. This will, when it comes into play, I would be surprised if it comes in as a 6/4. A lot of the time, maybe more like a 4/4 or 5/4, but 6/4 a lot of the time. And then, the longer the game goes, the bigger this gets. So this deck can really take advantage of these kind of things.
I love cards like this. We like a lot of these synergistic cards because you're going to play Kadama's Reach. You're going to play Cultivate in every single green deck you have. But to have cards like this, or Into the North, it makes really unique gameplay. A lot of fun. The next category is card draw. So here's some cool synergistic card draw cards for this deck. And the first one we have up is Oran Viper. It's 1 green for a snow creature, Snake. Whenever Oran Viper deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature at end of combat. Whenever Oran Viper deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card, and it's 1/3.
So yeah, it is a creature that they generally don't want to block because it's just going to destroy whatever thing. If anything, there maybe chump block it. But most of the time, you'll just be able to get to swing in freely with it. They don't want to lose the creatures, especially if it's something valuable they have. Of course, a little weaker against a token deck, but most of the time you're going to get in with it. It's a great repeated draw engine that is a snow permanent. It does matter. And then you can also, because of Jorn, you can attack with both of them. Jorn will untap all your snow permanents, so you can use it both offensively and defensively, Oran Viper. So you both get that draw trigger and have a pseudo death touch thing running around.
That's true. Right? That Seedborn Muse type thing, the untap. It's like a death touch. Did they not have the keyword death touch back then?
No, this is a reprinting. I think there's something about the wording specifically that gets around it. I hope I'm not wrong in that, not leading anyone astray. I do think when the card first came out, death touch didn't exist unless this is a Commander first card, which actually it might be. I take that back. I think it first appeared in Commander, and they just decided that they had some wording to it that they wanted to keep.
There you go. So Oran Viper. So another synergistic card draw spell is Glacial Revelation. For 2 and a green, it's a sorcery. Reveal the top 6 cards of your library. You may put any number of snow permanent cards from among them into your hand. Put the rest into your graveyard.
The downside is you reveal them. Most of the time, you're going to draw at least 3 or 4 cards for 3 mana, which is a great rate. And then again, as more sets come out, more of this deck can become snow. You'll hit 5 or 6 with this thing. It's 3 mana, draw 6 cards, right? Like
this is
pretty as good as it gets.
You want it in. This is the deck you want this card in. Yeah, in any other deck, it wouldn't do anything. But in this deck, it does a lot.
It does a lot. There's the middle ground on this is not high heavy. It's either overpowered or not worth playing in the slightest.
Exactly. Like just throw the card.
Complete misses. Why even have
it? But it works really well in this deck. So okay, those are some good card draws. So let's get into some single target removal for this, because I know this is kind of a commander you want to set up a little bit. So you need some ways to deal with some bad boys on the battlefield. And look at the first one. This guy gave me a hard time. I didn't realize how good this card was till you played it. I was like, this thing's annoying. He is the priest of the Haunted Edge, 1 in a black. For a snow creature, zombie cleric, you tap him and sacrifice priest of the Haunted Edge. Target creature gets -X and -X until end of turn, where X is the number of snowlands you control. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery, and it's a 0/4.
Yeah. So priest is a perfect example of it gets better as the game goes longer. You will often have, you're keeping up land wise. This can -X for huge amounts. You can take out indestructible things with it. The other thing I really like about it is the sacrifice downside is a kind of a bummer, but you can bring it back with Jorn's other half. So you can do that loop if you want to. You can just take out something every turn, use it as defensive engine or an offensive engine. You have the flexibility in this deck to really make this powerful as it's a snow permanent.
Yeah, I think after you use this on me, you brought it right back the next turn, and I was like, with some sort of recursion spell, I was like, no, please put it back in the graveyard. All right, another good single target removal card here is Blizzard Brawl. Excuse me. It's 1 green for a snow sorcery. You choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. And if you control 3 or more snow permanents, which I hope you do in this deck, the creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn. Then those creatures fight each other.
So this is a nice efficient removal spell. It's only 1 green mana. So, very little ask, and I would be horrendously surprised if you didn't have 3 or more snow permanents. I don't know how you play this deck without that. But
really
what I really don't know.
Really
Someone's
unlucky.
Armageddon you. If you're fighting an Armageddon deck, then this card's not great. But otherwise, why are you playing with that person? Anyways,
that's another.
There you go. But Blizzard Brawl specifically is fantastic. One classic thing I like doing with Blizzard Brawl is I'll put it on Jorn to take something I'm having trouble with, maybe has a low, toughness on it, which happens, I will use it to Jorn to fight it. Jorn's indestructible then in a turn, so I can get that free attack off that I'm constantly looking for. So a nice little synergy there. You can take advantage of the indestructible until end of turn, and then often, the main reason why you're using it is you can kill something. So rather nice synergy.
There we go. In the next category, we got some really awesome board wipes that only fit in a deck like this as well. We have Dead of Winter. It's 2 and a black for a sorcery. All non-snow creatures get -X until end of turn, where X is the number of snow permanents you control.
One-sided board wipe.
For 3 mana.
For 3 mana. Yeah. This is fantastic. It gets really crazy, especially in the late game. And I don't know what else to say. One-sided board wipes are kind of overpowered and kind of fantastic to have in your deck.
And it's not just a one-sided, but it's a -X board wipe.
Yep.
Like, it's around, it kills those Eldrazi off the battlefield.
Take care of those indestructible things. Absolutely.
There you go. Okay, and then the other guy we got is Winter's Chill. This is
Joel.
X in a blue. I'm going to go for it. It's an instant. Cast only during combat before defense is chosen. At the end of combat, destroy X target attacking creatures. X cannot be greater than the number of snow-covered lands you control. For each attacking creature, its controller may pay 1 or 2 generic mana to prevent it from being destroyed in this way. If that player pays 1 generic mana, the creature neither deals nor receives damage in combat. If that player pays 2 generic mana, the creature deals and receives damage in combat as normal.
So, basically, during your opponent's... I'm going to just summarize this because this is a mouthful in the slide. It's a fantastic card, too, in this deck. Basically, what happens is you almost always want to do it. I don't know why you'd want to do it on your turn. You're going to use it on your opponent's turn. They're going to do a big swing at you, something powerful. You're going to pay X, and then X has to be for each creature that you want. And again, X has to be less than the number of snow-covered lands you control, which again isn't too much of a restriction. This deck, it's really not. But basically, you have to pay X less than the number of lands you control to hit X number of creatures. They basically have a tax on those creatures. If they can pay 1 for each creature, then just nothing happens, and it's a fog effect. If they pay 2 on each creature, then you don't avoid that damage. But where this is really helpful is they do attack, they're tapped out, or maybe they have 1 mana open, maybe 2. They're attacking with a bunch of guys, especially a bunch of little guys. This is it's a one-sided. It's a board wipe. It's It's an instant board wipe a good chunk of the time, or at the very least a fog another good chunk of the time.
It's a very, very complicated fog.
It's a very it's the kind that your friends are going to want to hear the explanation of how dumb this down for us. You can pay 1 or 2 per attacker. If you pay 1, then it's a fog. Pay 2, and then you get to ignore this. So that's the long and short of it.
There you go. There you go. Well, yeah, have the rule book out at the table, playing Winter's Chill. But let's get into the next section, which is our best synergistic recursion and protection. We also like to make sure there's a little bit of recursion and protection is in the deck. And in this one, I think you also definitely want to have a bit of protection. And plus, you're in Sultai colors, so great for recursion. What do we got up here? First, we have a new one, Draugr Necromancer for 3 and a black. It's a snow creature, zombie cleric. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile that card with an ice counter on it instead. And you may cast spells from among cards in exile your opponent's own with ice counters on them, and you may spend mana from snow sources as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells, and it's a 4/4.
So I'll tell you a scary combo. You do give -X to all non-snow creatures. When all those non-token snow creatures die, they get ice counters on them, and then you can use them on your side of the board as you see fit, and you can afford it. And then with the natural ramp from Jorn, all of a sudden this just gets bonkers. This card is a game plan in of itself. I almost put it as an alt-win condition, but I thought it was a perfect example of some recursion. Except it's not on your things, it's on your opponent's things. So it's really flexible, very interesting and unique card. Really fits with the deck, and it's just a fun include.
And that artwork on there is pretty nice too. Don't mind that one. Oh,
and don't forget to, just like the front of Jorn has natural ramp, the back of Jorn has natural recursion. So you got a little recursion on the commander, you got a lot of ramp on the commander. You really get that flexibility with Jorn.
There we go. And then what do we have up here next? We have Dolmen Gate. It's 2 generic mana for an artifact. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control.
So this is an example, and there's a couple cards that basically have this effect. We've talked about a few more niche cases, but there's a number of cards that either can be used, in a different way to do it, or just that's the effect. This one is just to help Jorn freely attack into your opponent, really make it so you will get that untap trigger that will allow the deck to really ramp very fast. And this is a card, again, that will just let that happen. It'll become a target because of it, but Dolmen, great, fantastic card.
Great card. So those are our synergies in the deck. And that's your game plan for, having Seedborn Muse on your commander. This is just, this thing can go off pretty quickly. So there's a card I always have in my binder. I'm like, what deck can I put this in as an alt-win con? I guess we just found it, and that card is Merit Lage's Slumber. It's 1 and a blue for legendary snow enchantment. Whenever Merit Lage's Slumber or another snow permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you scry 1. Already value. If it just said that, it would be a good enchantment.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more snow permanents, sacrifice Merit Lage's Slumber. If you do, create Merit Lage, a legendary 20/20 black avatar creature token with flying and indestructible. Try to deal with
this. This card is the alt-win conditions on alt-win conditions. This Jorn could also just secretly be a Merit Lage deck with this card specifically. Holy cow. The scry is fantastic for the deck. You will hit that about, for every land, and if you haven't placed no permanent, which chances are you will most turns, you'll scry 1 or 2 every time. But what's really scary is you can hit Merit Lage in this deck I would hope by turn 7 if you had this out, you would hit the amount of snow permanents needed. Maybe you turn 8 might be more realistic, but honestly, you can get this out as early if you just things just kind of line up. Turn 5. This really, and keep in mind, it's also a snow permanent, so it helps to that count. And this card right here, a lot of fun, very scary.
Yes, this counts. This is a good one. For this deck, this is a really good one. So that is our alt win con. And like you said, there's a few other cards in here we've been going over. I feel like with all the ramp, you got a few places where you can sink your mana into some big creatures. You got in here some big things. What you guys can look on the Arca deck, always look below to. I don't think we mention this every time we do a deck tech, but like below we have the links both to our TCG affiliate where you can purchase through our link, which would help support us, which is awesome. But also we have the Arca deck, where you can just go and look at the deck itself and get some ideas or, yeah, for sure.
Again, under 100, just barely, but under 100.
Yeah.
Great
TCG
cheap deck.
prices.
Really, yeah, exactly. Really powerful.
Yeah.
This deck is, I mean, again, if the cards are right, this can be an 8 leaning on a 9. Most of the time, you're going to fall a little bit lower. And I guess I'll use that to take going into our next segment, weaknesses of the deck. It's really reliant on Jorn. You know, especially early on in the game plan, to really help you ramp on those early turns. And of course, if Jorn is removed, like maybe a player who's fought this deck a number of times will realize that's what you use. The deck does not become an 8 or a 9. It really dances around a 6, I'd say, a 5 or a 6. I mean, you can get the cards out correctly where you can protect a little bit, play just a turn behind, not have it be a big deal. But you know, sometimes it doesn't always come together. If Jorn's getting aimed at in a play group that knows what it can do, you know, be a little wary. It's definitely will slow down the deck.
Yeah, I think whenever people are aware that there's like your commander is going to be such an important piece, you know, they're going to try and remove it, like you said. So it's good to, and what I found that back when I played my Gira deck for the first time, I hadn't played it, but I think other people played against it enough to know, hey, I got to stop this guy before he starts populating tokens. And it kept getting removed, and I was getting frustrated. But then I realized the next time I was like, I'm not going to cast it until I have some way to protect it. And Jorn might be the same way. You might be like, I'm not going to put it out there to get slaughtered until I can get some sort of protection pieces out there.
In a group that's more savvy, that is what you absolutely have to do. In fact, you may need to adjust the deck ever so slightly to add a couple more protection options in there, give it hexproof a little more. But I didn't want to have too much of that. I wanted to have a little back and forth. You know, I don't like my decks to be too inherently powerful. I didn't want to make it too consistent. So it has that downside to it. It's built in currently. If you want to throw some more money at it to get rid of that, you can. The other weakness it has is there is a weird amount of anti-snow cards in Magic. And I don't know why your friend would hate you enough to play that. But if they did, guess what? This deck does not do well. This deck does not do well against the anti-snow. The snow deck, in fact, would have problems with that. So if your friends are playing anti-snow, or even the 1 or 2 cards that just have a weird anti-snow rider, this deck does not like that. It will lose in those situations.
That's for sure. That's right. Well, this is also an under 100, so it's within budget. We do under 100. We figure budget. We can't. It's harder to get a decent deck out under that. But we also have a few upgrades, like, right? So if you wanted to add a few bucks more, you have these cards. Throw a Ristic Study in there. Yeah. And when do you not want a Ristic Study in a blue deck?
When do you not want a Ristic Study? You know, use the owl, make it a snow permanent even.
Yeah, you got it. And you know, yeah, I like the design on this one. It looks almost snowy. But yeah, of course, Ristic Study is going to get you a ton of card draw. Mystic Grimoire, I don't think we put in this deck. It could also be a decent choice.
No, I purposely, there was even a point I think we had Ristic Grimoire, and I think we talked about it, Joel, our first game. Yeah. There's a lot of, I mean, the deck has a decent amount of card draw. It's just the deck does, you know, better with it because it has so much ramp. This ramps more than almost any other deck I have. Even ramp decks I have, this deck ramps better because of Jorn. That it just needs more card draw, and like a normal amount of card draw still doesn't quite feel enough card draw. So feel free to throw more card draw at this deck if you want to make it more consistent, more powerful. This probably, honestly, is the most powerful under 100 deck I think I've built. It's a little bit better in the 4-man versus the 1v1, but in the 1v1, holy cow, is this deck scary.
Yeah, it's strong there. Another really good upgrade is Dark Depths, which is a legendary snow land. Dark Depths enters the battlefield with 10 ice counters on it. For 3, you can remove an ice counter from Dark Depths. Your Dark Depths has no ice counters on it. You can sacrifice it, and if you do, create Merit Lage. There he is again. A legendary 2020 black avatar creature token with flying and indestructible.
I highly recommend if you have another $20 or 16 or whatever it is.
16?
I think it was 16. But if I pulled it was in the deck. I pulled it out to make it under 100 because just one card solved that problem. If you have an extra $16, throw in a Dark Depths. It's a fun card. You're never going to get to play it really in Commander, except in a few other type of, counter removal decks. This is a Snow deck. This is the perfect home for it, right? I highly recommend adding in a Dark Depths if you can.
That's perfect. That's beautiful. Yeah, so here you go. Under 100, Jorn, Seedborn Muse Snowy deck. Yeah, this is fun. Again, man, if you just spend, you can spend less than $100 and get a really good deck. I know even with the precons that come out and people do upgrades on, you still end up spending between 60 and 100 by the time you're done to have a decent playing deck. And like you said, of all the under 100, you've built a few pretty good ones. I think a few strong ones. The Godzilla one was really nice. My 8-year-old plays with that. We've adjusted a little bit. This Jorn deck, yeah, this was pretty strong. This is a pretty powerful card. And again, if you can keep Jorn on the battlefield, like you've been saying, it really makes the rest of this deck tick. And it ticks pretty well.
It ticks really well.
It really does.
The one thing I'll say too, it's just so everyone's aware, and I'll probably have to mention this a couple more times over the next, bunch of videos we do deck techs. I never built an under 100 attempting to build a 100 deck tech. What happens is I built a deck like I would every other time. I look at the price, and if it's like under 140 in that range, I'm like, what can we take out and still make it around 100, right? Sometimes it's even lower than that. 140 is just maybe the max. Like this one, it was at like 120. I take out Merit Lage, and then I think we did one other card adjustment, and it was there. It was, it was one of those things where I never build the deck under 100. It's just a nice treat when it turns out that it's under 100.
Yeah, I think when we first started, we're like doing all the deck techs. We're like, it'd be cool to do like some budget versions, but we're like, we're not going to try and do the whole like $25, $50. We're not that crazy. Sorry, Mitch, you're not crazy, but we're not going to do that. We don't know how to do that, but yeah, man, these under 100s are pretty good. But this Jorn, man, I gotta say, it makes me want to build a Snow deck. But then again, I also want to build a Cosima deck right now too. So I'm torn.
These gods, man. Again, I'm not happy with a few things about them, but I do think they're powerful. Don't get me wrong on that. I think these are powerful cards, fun commanders. So hopefully we'll see them in the future.
Well, maybe that whole argument we've had off screen about
we've had it off screen once too.
Yeah, the gods not having indestructible. Maybe they just didn't do that because these gods are also double-sided and other things that might overpower
things.
Them.
And I get gameplay why happened. Heck, I even get lore wise. I want to go back into it, but I just feel like it's a little bit of a bummer. They could have had other ways to go about making them feel godly.
I think less in our format. I think like in other formats, right, where you run 2 or 3 of the same card, these hold a little bit more value, especially being legendary, right? Because now you can run them and, I can't play that side because I got the legendary role, but I can play the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think that's
be better
fabulous.
In those formats.
Yeah, looking at you, Standard. Let's see what happens with Kaladesh.
Let's see what happens with Jorn. All right, well, that's it. Thank you guys for listening. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and leave a comment below. Any ideas, opinions? We like to talk to you guys. So, yeah.
And Joel was nice enough that I don't have to do the, hey, if you're going to buy for one of some of these cards on the deck, TCG player it up, use our affiliate link. Joel took care of that. So I had not much to say.
There you go. Yeah, we're trying to do the whole little like YouTube spiel at the end. We're completely unorganized. We don't care. We care. We love this game. We do this just because we love it, and we like talking about it. So you guys have a good one, and until next time.
See ya.